Time for a little story time. I hope you stick around and learn from the situation that happened with my client. Let me go ahead and put the caption here. All right. Goodness. All right. Just ignore the typos or the grammar issues because it's hard to put the comment and then pin it as I'm talking. But listen up. I want to share with you something that happened with a coaching client. And I got her permission to share anonymously, of course, because I think that this is a great teaching opportunity. And it's been on my heart lately to talk about conflict resolution, which is great for not only the dating stages, but also when you're in a relationship. So if you could type the word conflict, and I know that you are listening and paying attention, and we're going to dive right in. Okay. Hey, good to see you, Grace. All right, I'm going to be playing this, doing the replay on YouTube. So if you miss a portion of this, you can go back and watch it there. But I'm going to dive right in. So here is the scenario. Here is what happened. And thank you to my client for allowing me to share. She met a guy, and as far as I can remember, they are just a few days into conversation. So you really don't know much about this person other than, the basics, the names, whatever. And so they were talking, and I believe, like I said, it was just a couple of days. So he wanted to try to see her on Friday. Okay. He wanted to see her, which would be today. And that's sweet. That's a good sign from a coaching perspective, right? He wants to see you right away. That's a good sign. He's not sitting there trying to be your pen pal. So she lets him know she has plans already. Great for her. She's booked and busy, right? These great ladies are not just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, waiting to be rescued. They are going out, having a life, having fun. Not a problem. So she communicates that, but says, hey, I do have an opportunity to spend some time together if you want to join me for my morning walk. She goes on these morning walks and has this beautiful scenery at the lake, watches the sunrise. It's a whole thing. It can be very romantic. And, pleasantly surprised, he says, yes, that would be great. So now they're all locked in for a Friday morning get together, which you guys, if you know my stuff, I love stuff like that. Dates don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be elaborate. This is something that she does on a regular basis. So he gets a sneak peek into her world, and it can be really romantic watching the sunrise. Okay. And you're walking around a beautiful lake. So everything seems like it's going well. Okay. So Thursday they communicate and they make plans to talk on the phone. I don't know if it's their first time talking on the phone, but they made plans to talk on the phone yesterday, okay, Thursday night. And so she sends him a sweet message, which I was so proud of, letting him know she's looking forward to the conversation, giving him choosing signals that she is picking up what he's putting down and enjoying it, okay? If you guys are with me so far, drop me a thumbs up emoji. All right, so she sends a cute message and he doesn't reply. Hours go by and there's no reply. So she decides that she wants to go out on the town, and she gets out and enjoys herself, listens to live music, whatever, okay? Now, eventually he realizes that he's not responded, and he responds to her, but she lets him know, hey, I'm out and about, so I'm not in a position to talk at this time, but it should be over around 10:30. And then from there, we can have a conversation. Okay. Well, his response is a little salty. You could tell he's a little salty. He was like, oh, well, enjoy your night. But she's communicating with him, throughout and letting him know, what's happening, etc. After I get to the end of the story, I'm going to give you what I think the teaching moments are. And hopefully you guys can learn from here, because I want love to win. Okay. I think there are so many missteps where we miss each other, and we don't have to necessarily miss each other. Okay. So they're communicating, and it's clear that he's a little bit salty. And at one point he is letting her know that he's not going to be joining her for the next day, which of course she was bummed about. And they don't even end up talking on the phone because her event goes past the 10:30. And then by the time they do text, he says he's in and out of sleep, what have you. All right. So kind of ends the night on a wah. Well, this morning he says, you know what? I am still going to come. And he ends up coming and going on the walk with her. So she did what I absolutely would want to do and ask questions to see where they missed each other. Okay. Now, his posture was, oh, it's no big deal. I'm over it. You know, it's not a big thing. Her thing was, I want to understand. Okay. Now, if you guys have ever been in this type of conflict, I'm gonna need iPhone to chill out with all these little things. Whenever I try to make them happen, they don't, but it's always at the worst time when they do. But comment conflict, if you've had this exact conflict where you're trying to gain an understanding, but the other person, put conflict 1. If you're trying to gain an understanding, but the other person says it's no big deal. Put conflict 2. If you have been the person who's saying, I don't think this is a big deal. My God, why can't my partner let it go? We've already got the resolution. Like in this example, I'm already at the walk. We resolved it. We've moved forward. I still want to talk to you. So I want to know which person you are. And if you've never had this type of conflict, then comment never. So conflict 1, if you're the person trying to get resolution, trying to get an understanding, put conflict 2. If you are the person who's like, oh my God, this person is making a mountain out of a molehill from your perspective, and then put never if you've never been in either of those two situations, okay? I'm curious to see which most ladies are in because I have a guess, but I will see. Okay, so far we have 2 of the conflict 1s, and they are both women. So if you guys are just tuning in, I am giving you a summary of something that's happening in real time. I offer coaching via DM for people who just want to have me literally in their pocket. They're in the middle of a date, they don't know what to do, or they're having a situation and they, are getting my advice. So if you guys want that, you can DM me and I'll tell you how to set it up. But this is a client that I am coaching in real time via text. So far we have 4 conflict 1s for women and 1 conflict 2 for men. And this is totally going into what my assumption is. Another woman had conflict 1. So we have 5 women for conflict 1 and 1 man for conflict 2. And I don't know if there are any other guys watching, but I'm very curious if there are guys watching to see which ones are conflict 2. So let me go from the male perspective first. Guys, with women, we are not trying to nitpick. We are not trying to beat a dead horse. We are not trying to talk a subject to death. What we are trying to do is extract information that we can use in the future. It would be the same as if you tried to understand what her food allergies are so that in the future, you know what to plan for the date. It's not that you're obsessing about the food. It's not that you can't let it go. The fact that you took her to a seafood place and you find out she's allergic to seafood, you're going, well, if you're allergic to seafood, maybe there are other things you're allergic to that I don't know about. And if I have the conversation with you, then in the future, I can avoid conflict. Okay. She said, amen. Preach that we are not trying to piss anyone off. Yes. Now, it's very important if you are identifying with conflict 1 scenario, you're that person. If you're identifying with that person in the scenario, it's important for you to remain calm and not make accusations. Okay. If you speak to I statements, I want to know, I'm trying to understand, as opposed to you didn't do or you should do. It's you want to make sure you don't put the person on the defensive. Okay. So, she's asking, and she said, why is it that you, or he actually accused her of not following through with the phone call. And her response was, well, I know we said that we were going to talk, that I was going to call you, but when I sent you that message, I never heard from you. His first reaction was one of defensiveness. Well, you said you were going to call, so you should have called. Now, technically, he is correct. But this is another teaching moment. When you are first getting to know someone, communication is paramount, especially if you have plans to see each other in person or plans to communicate. If you go 3 hours without talking, not saying, okay, I gotta watch it because someone's like, oh my God, you're saying I can't go any amount of time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you have plans to talk or you have plans to meet, it is important to make a point to check your phone. Okay. Check. It's just a way of keeping in touch. It is a way of keeping communication alive. And here's the thing. When you are trying to move from singledom to partnership, there is a selfishness that cannot be there, a self-centeredness that cannot be there. You have to start thinking in a we. Okay. You don't have the luxury of just doing whatever you want and there being no consequences. Now, this is not a good thing or a bad thing. It is not a sin thing or a positive. It's just the reality. If you go missing for hours on end, and let's just say typically there's a pretty quick response or reasonable response, understand that you are going to cause there to be confusion in the mind of the other person. Not saying that they're going to break down, not saying they're going to leave, but it causes confusion. And at the very beginning, it's kind of like starting a fire. You want to be so delicate that you don't set anything off, because a little wind can blow that whole thing out and snuff out the little embers that were just starting to get nice and hot. Okay? So please don't think that I'm saying you got to be a psycho and attached to your phone and oh my God. And no, I'm not talking about an insecure person who's just trying to track you. So getting back to story time. Are you guys following me? Comment yes if you're following so far, okay? So his first reaction is to defend. Well, you should have, and accuse, you should have done this. Now, in those moments, it's better to say, oh, when I didn't hear from you, I thought X, Y, Z, as opposed to telling the person what they should have done, okay? So he said, you should have called me. So her feelings as a feminine woman, she has already put herself out there. She has already made herself vulnerable. She has already said, look, I'm letting you know that I'm very excited to talk to you. That takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable in the beginning stages. And men, you guys need to understand that. For a woman to do that, that is huge, okay? So if you leave her hanging, that is going to give her mind time to think and wonder and go, did I come on too strong? You don't know what she's thinking. It's going to cause her mind to go crazy, okay? And really what she's trying to do is confirm, are we both as excited to talk? That's what the underlying message is. Are we both excited? I'm letting you know I'm excited, and I'm trying to get a feel for you to see if you're excited too. Okay? There's a lot of emotional intelligence that needs to happen if you want to be in a relationship and be a great partner. So let's go back. So then he eventually admits and says, I was actually at the barber and then I forgot to check my phone. Well, it took all of this conversation for him to just say, look, I forgot. This would have been nipped in the bud if he could have just owned that that was his bad. This, again, isn't a mortal sin. It's not something huge. But I always say this. There are two characteristics in a person that will absolutely sabotage relationship potential. And if you do manage to get in a relationship, will make you a miserable partner to be with, okay? The two things are pride and self-centeredness. Pride keeps you from... Come on, iPhone. Pride keeps you from doing things that you know are the right things to do because you don't want to look bad. You want to control how you appear. But here's the thing. When we're grown-ups and we got BGPs, our big girl panties and big guy panties, well, big guy undies, nobody cares that you messed up. It's how you recover. So if he had said, you know what, that's my bad. I am really bad with my phone. I got to get better. Right? To the two things, you acknowledge what happened and you say what your plan is to improve. And then 3, you acknowledge how it affected the other person. Man, I know that must have made you wonder, like, what's happening? I'm so sorry. I'm going to do better in the future. That's a 3-part apology. It's owning it. Yes, Audra, exactly. Owning it. And I teach that in my course, the three-pronged apology. Okay. This would have made her respect him that much more. But now looking at him, it's like, okay, is this the type of guy who gets defensive? Do we have to go out and freaking get, the smoking gun to get him to admit anything? Like, you don't want that. That's a little bit concerning. Like, okay, let's put this in our little notebook. Okay. And so he finally owns it. But as she was pushing and trying to understand, hey, where did we miss each other? His first reaction was, conflict avoidant, conflict avoidant, conflict avoidant. Now, a conflict avoidant person thinks, oh gosh, if we talk about a conflict, that means we're having a fight and fights are bad. Okay? Anybody conflict avoidant, put CA in the comments. If that's something you've ever felt and you're like, oh God, oh God, oh God, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I just want peace. And you want to avoid conflict, comment CA so I can see if we have any conflict avoidance. Okay? Now, if you are a person who is okay with conflict, you could say, okay, I had to grow into being okay with conflict. And I had to realize it took a long time, but I realized that some of the things in my past had taught me that if there was conflict, there were going to be long-term punishments. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. This is affirmation because I've been wanting to do this. Okay. Good. We have a mission for conflict avoidant, and he had resonated as being conflict too when I first asked. So that's really, really good. Thank you for being vulnerable. Okay. So what I realized was I had somebody, a key figure in my life, who would punish me emotionally after a conflict. Okay? Put the little hand emoji if you've ever had someone punish you. Let me tell you what punishment means. You did something they didn't like, and after expressing that they didn't like it, they ignored you. They gave you the cold shoulder. Maybe they withdrew plans that they originally had made with you. Maybe they started being mean. They essentially let you know beyond their words that what you did was unacceptable. And because I had so much of that, I thought that's just how it went. So when I started to get the hint that conflict was coming, it was more than just, oh God, we're going to have a conversation. It is, well, there's about to be 2 weeks of weirdness. And it triggered this. Now, all this is happening subconsciously. This wasn't something clear where I go, oh, conflict is coming. I'm going to get some bad treatment after this. Therefore, no, this took a long time, okay? And I think some revelations from God and all this. So I hope this is helpful. This is helpful, comment helpful, you guys. See a bunch of people raise their hand that they've had a person like that. So you have to be careful if you've had that experience with someone in the past and understand that there are plenty of people who are healthy who aren't going to hold things over your head if you do something wrong. They are simply trying to get on the same page with you. They're trying to get back on the same page. So going back to this scenario, she was all excited, looking forward to the phone call. She put the message out there thinking she was going to get a sweet response. When she didn't get the sweet response, it made her confused. And now she's in the gray area. I don't really know how to proceed. And for him, he wasn't the most responsible with his phone. And now he's disappointed because he was looking forward to a call with her. Now, I like to extract the sweetness, which is what I advised her. The sweetness is the fact that he was disappointed about not getting to talk to her was a good sign. One of the things I teach in my program is if a man is apathetic, he could care less whether he can see you or not. That is a bad sign. Now, you don't want the pendulum to swing. So apathy would be, being disappointed would be in the middle, and that's neutral, and that's good. Raging and being pissed off and punishing you, that's bad. Okay. Or I guess I would say that's one extreme, or apathy would be the other way. Sorry, I was confused. So apathy, he could care less. I don't care. I don't have any emotional attachment to you at all. Healthy is, man, I'm bummed. And then all the way to the other extreme is controlling, like, I'm going to punish you now because you disappointed me. Okay. So we're going to hold out. The jury's still out on whether or not he has, healthy sense of balance when it comes to emotions. But he did recover after withdrawing his agreement to go to the walk. Okay. This is, if you guys ever do this stuff, that is punishment behavior. That is toxic. If you made plans to do something with someone and the only reason you're changing the plans is because this person disappointed you, that is manipulation. That is emotional manipulation, and it's not healthy. You might be doing stuff like that and thinking, no, I just don't feel like it anymore. I'm telling you, it's emotional manipulation, and you should not do that. You should talk through the situation. And if you still are not wanting to be around that person, you should let that person go. I preach the same thing when it comes to withholding sex. I say you should never withhold sex as a way to punish your man. If there is something that is making you not in the mood and it's an emotional issue, you should talk through that issue and work that issue out. You do not get your way. You do not try to make an impression on him by withholding a good thing. That is emotional manipulation. She said, would it have been wrong to decline his request to walk after trying to punish, honestly, that would have triggered me. I love that question, and this is very honest. So, and it's honest, and I think you're probably speaking for a lot of people. It would be triggering, and it was problematic for her, what he did. However, I think that in this situation, grace should be afforded, and you can learn a lot from conflict and conflict resolution or lack of resolution. I always say it's easy when you first meet somebody. Everything's great and rosy and fun and emotions are high, but you don't know a ninja. You don't know a ninjette until you've had conflict. So I would say really early on, I think this would have caused too much. I think that he was hurt and sad and expressed it in an immature way and a very passive way. And I think that if she would have done that, it would have caused too much of a divide. I think that there's still enough potential. I think there was enough potential to kind of see how things panned out. But I believe that if she had gotten into her emotions, and I say that respectfully because it would have been rightfully so, if she had gotten in her emotions, it might have caused this thing to, okay? Sorry, I've got like 15 reminders that are popping up. Hey, Anthony. Now, instead of doing that, I would express to him and say with my words, it really bothered me that because you were upset, you wanted to withdraw your offer to hang out with me. I would have expressed that. And this is the thing. A lot of times people are afraid to be vulnerable because it makes them feel weak. It makes them feel like the person could do something with that information. But as long as it's not anything that's jeopardizing your security, your safeties, there's nothing that's going to, get in the way of you, your business. Like it's not something they could use against you to make you lose a job or something like that. If you're opening up and you say, hey, I had someone in my past who, whenever he would get upset, he would withhold nice things. If he had bought me something, he would take it back or whatever. This is an opportunity to bond and open up and be vulnerable. So many people, this is why I have this just fantasy. If I ever could get people who were brave enough to allow me, I want to be there like a fairy godmother and walk people through, because a lot of stuff is happening below the surface. It's not happening on the surface level. The surface is easy stuff. If I was a gambling woman, I would say he was very excited to hang out with her. He wasn't being malicious. He just wasn't paying attention to his phone. He figured, well, we're going to be talking anyway. It's not that big of a deal. And he got disappointed when he didn't get to talk to her. And then he was like, okay, well, I won't get to talk to her till 10:30. And then when 10:30 came and she said, oh, the evening is still going, he was really bummed and then fell asleep. And I can relate to that. I am so passionate. I am so in love. And I've always been this way. I'm all in when I'm all in. So for example, last night, my show on YouTube, if they want to go over, they can pay $1 a minute and then we extend the show. Well, they kept extending it. It was like 2 hours. And so my guy texted me like, hey, is the show still going? I said, yeah, it's going to be over at 11:30. And he said, okay, 2 minutes later, right? 10:32. And they ended up extending it 15 more minutes. So it ended up being 11:45. And then I tried to reach out and he had already fallen asleep. And I was so bummed. I mean, I see him every single day. It's not like I don't get to spend time with him, but I really value my time. And I was just a little bummed. So I can relate. I can understand that people get excited. And this is what we have to be able to do. We have to extract the sweetness and the compliment below the surface. So, you were really looking forward to. And there's such a thing. You guys heard the term love tank. Gosh, I want to give him credit. I'm blanking on his name, but there's an author and he came up with the term love tank. And he said it's like having deposits that you make into the account and withdrawals that you take from the account when you are having positive and negative experiences with a person. So let's say my boyfriend comes in and kisses me on the cheek and shows me affection. Cha-ching, cha-ching. There was an emotional deposit in my love tank. But he forgets that he told me he was going to take me to dinner and made conflicting plans. Whoosh, a withdrawal comes out. So there's a subconscious balance in your tank. Gary Chapman, thank you. I was gonna say, I believe it was the love languages guy. I couldn't remember if it was him or a different guy, but thank you, Gary Chapman. And there are withdrawals and deposits. And what healthy people understand, what emotionally intelligent people understand is, I'm going to hedge my bets because I know at some point it's not going to be intentional. I'm not malicious. I'm not trying to hurt them, but I'm going to make a withdrawal, and I don't ever want to be overdrawn. Okay. We know about overdraft fees and all that stuff. So what do? They make deposits on a regular basis. I am going to make him something to eat. I'm going to give him a back rub. I am going to spend time with him. I'm going to hug him. I'm going to do all these things so that if my show runs over and we don't get to spend time, I got something to cover. Does that make sense? I got something to cover the withdrawal, and the net is there's so many great experiences and there aren't that many bad experiences. Love covers a multitude of sin. Okay. And in this case, it's not sinning. It's just disappointments or missteps. So what I would advise her moving forward is test the waters. I would help him lick his wounds. Okay. Now, this is a quick teaching moment before I get back to this. We cannot always look at situations as who was right, who was wrong. It is important to find out what was right and what was wrong. But in this case, we have to give grace, like I said, and see what's sweet underneath. So did he make a misstep? Yes. Was he defensive? Yes. What was the underlying thing? He was really excited to see her. So if we focus on that and we see his humanness, this will allow us to give a person grace. Thank you, Amanda, for the badge. That is so sweet. That is very sweet. Thank you. This is probably going to sound really odd, but I'm getting a little bit emotional because of the fact that there are so many of you watching, which says that this is something that you are learning from. And it makes my heart so happy because there is so much content out here that is just surface, and it is frankly not accurate, and it's going to leave people miserable. And I just believe with all my heart that if people had more tools, there would be more successful relationships, more relationships, period, but then there would be more enjoyable relationships. Nothing makes me sadder than to see people who once were in love who now can't stand each other. And it's just because they don't have the tools to work through. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. So what I would say is to her, focus on the sweetness and keep keep an open mind to him, but also be taking notes. So I'm going to give you guys a lot of free game in this conversation, okay? Because we're getting into a lot of the coursework. But I give what I have coined the phrase a 90-day discovery phase. I say when you meet a guy, literally mark on the calendar that day, put his initials or whatever you want to do, and then count 90 days from that day. And then give yourself that time to really take notes. And I like to say like this. Your posture should be, okay, you're note-taking. The mistake that a lot of women make is they meet a guy, they get excited that he's cute, his beard connects, he has, his side teeth, and he has subject-verb agreement, and boom, they're like, this is the one, and they start there and just hope that it stays there. Like, this is my man. I just know it's happening. It's just a matter of time. And that is the most dangerous mindset to have. They're married to the outcome, and then when it doesn't work out, they're just crushed. They're disappointed. They just come crashing down. As opposed to going, okay, there's a new candidate in the seat. All right, things are going well. We're going to give him a trial period. And we don't say that. We don't even act that in our behavior, but we're there. And guess what, you guys? Men do it subconsciously. Men are more tapped in to their logical side of their brain. That is one of the beauties of masculine, where the emotion doesn't tend to override the logic. So they feel the things like she's beautiful, we're having a good time, but his brain will pace him and say, but bro, it's been a week. Bro, it's only been a month. Well, let's see how she is around the family. Let's see how she is with this. You see what she is with that. Thank you for the badge, little bits. Thank you. And so as women, we got to tap into our masculine in order to protect ourselves and take notes. Okay, let's see how he deals with conflict. And I always say you want to have a full year, a full set of seasons. You want to see him be disappointed. You want to see him be angry. You want to see him be elated. You want to see him turned on. You want to see him just, succeeding. You want to see him in all the seasons so you really can tell what kind of a guy he is. Because if you are paying attention, a lot of times these red flags are very apparent. And most of the times it's that you're just staying longer than you should have. She said, so if a guy is taking relationship week 2, so if a guy is talking in relationship week 2, is that not good if we really need 90 days? This is where it's nuanced, and it really helps to have coaching in real time because every situation is nuanced. My guy asked me to be in a relationship day 2, literally day 2 of talking. We hadn't even seen each other's faces. We had one FaceTime, and he asked me to be his lady. Okay. Now, in my situation, it worked out. We're talking about marriage, and, we know that, he said, shoot, if I had already had everything in place, you would already been proposed to. Like, it's 100% we're going to move forward. Right. So it worked out. In my first situation in my marriage, he proposed in 3 months. Now, technically, we could have stayed together, right? I hung in there for 12 years. But the reality is, I saw within those 3 months everything I needed to see. But because of my, I don't think it would be emotional. I guess it would be emotional immaturity. I wanted the marriage, and so I moved forward despite what I saw. And by the time it was time to actually tie the knot, which by the time we tied the knot, we had known each other a year, he saw enough to say we should not be together. But out of my immaturity and my concern with how it would look to other people, I moved forward. So the way I would answer that, because I feel like I went really around and about, there's no set answer, but understand that there are major consequences to whatever decision you want to make or you decide to make. I remember my father saying this to me, and I'll never forget. He said, no one has ever regretted taking more time to get to know someone. You can't really go wrong. The worst case scenario would be if they passed away, but it's like you could still spend time with them up until that point. So, maybe you would say, I regret not being his lady, or I regret not being married to that person, but taking your time should never be an issue. What I would say is, don't ever let a man rush you. So when Monte said the next day, I want you to be my lady, and I said, boy, I just met you. I said, first of all, how's that going to even look in my head? How is it going to look as a dating coach? I'm talking about 90-day discovery phase, and I'm over here day 2. And so I said, I would like to at least have 30 days to really get a chance to get to know you. And after the 30 days, we would have met in person. And then I said, I would have known by the chemistry and all that if everything was Gucci. I caved after 7 days. I caved. However, we were having the most incredibly deep conversations. We same thing with when I got married the first time. We covered a lot of stuff. So we fast forwarded through what modern daters would take 6 to 9 months to figure out, because most people just spend the first couple of months flirting and giggling at each other. They're not talking about deal breakers. They're not talking about why their past relationships failed. They are not talking about their insecurities. They're not talking about their relationship with their parents. They're not talking about their fears and their goals. They're usually just giggling and going out to fancy dinners. So when you skip all that stuff and you go straight to the meat, you do speed the process up quite a bit. But again, you have to be responsible for, the decisions that you make. So that being said, even with Monte, once I committed, because emotionally I was in, he was emotionally in, and he told me on day 7 when I said, okay, we can be officially a thing. He said, we've been together. Like, my family and friends all know we've been together. You're just the only one late to the party, lady. And I started cracking up. He's like, you been my girl. Like, I was like, shut up. Ew. Anyway, but I was smitten. I wasn't talking to anybody else. And so I would say there's not a specific amount of time. However, for me personally, there is not anything magical about a year, but I feel that for me, I couldn't tie the knot before a year. And after everything I went through in my marriage, I was like, and a year was around the time I saw the things that I needed to see. And so for me, let's just say you date, even if you get committed to that person immediately, right? It's just a title. The title doesn't protect you. So even if I had said yes on the second day, the title doesn't protect me. It doesn't protect him. I could have 30 days in gone, I don't like this guy. And then, all we have to do is we'd have to break up. But what is that? It's just words. So there really isn't any difference, which is why I did my original YouTube video about the 90-day discovery phase. I did a video about titles, like who gives a crap about titles? It doesn't change anything. With marriage, you have a legally binding agreement that you have to go through a court system, or a legal process to undo. But when you're dating, it's just words. I could say on Tuesday, I broke up with you. And then Wednesday, I could smash somebody else. And then Thursday, I could say, I want to be back with you. And I didn't cheat because we were broken up. Like, there's just I don't put a lot of weight in the title thing. Okay. What the importance to me, in my opinion, is for a woman, if I'm saying woman because that's the majority of my clients, although I do work with men, I just don't advertise it. I believe that, I was like, who's on my porch? I believe that it's more important for a woman to not feel forced, because that's why I forgot to go back and say, if a guy says early on, I'm feeling you, that's okay. Because that happens often. A lot of guys say, I knew from the first moment I saw her. That's okay. You just need to go at your speed. So just like with Monte, he was ready day 2. I wasn't ready until day 7. And I thought I wouldn't be ready until day 30. But the guy could say, oh, I know you're gonna be my wife. I want to marry you. That's sweet. That's fine. That should not be a red flag. Unless he starts pressing you. Unless he starts guilt tripping you. Unless he tries to speed up your timeline. She said, are you opposed to titles though? Should you let it linger? Sorry, I love the way you answer questions. Oh, thank you. If you guys are enjoying this, by the way, feel free to get a badge. I do work for tips. I do this full time, y'all. So feel free to show love if you want. No, I'm not opposed to titles. I just think that it's really important for women to understand that they are really just that. The guy is the guy. If a guy is a jerk, having a title is not going to protect you. It's not jerk insurance. If he's a cheater and you have a title, the title is not going to protect you from cheating. So basically, I would say take the title with a grain of salt. Take the title with a grain of salt. So you can be someone's boo thing and you're exclusive. Then you could be engaged. Oh, thank you, Mando. She got another badge. Thank you. You could be engaged. Some people are engaged for like 6 years. Oh, thank you, Raquel. Come on, balloons. And so I would say still take kind of the engagement as a grain of salt, because somebody could just be buying you time. I had a guy say I literally married someone to shut her up or got engaged or whatever. You still need to pay attention to your person. And I don't care if you have put the money down on the venue, you have the ring, you bought the dress, you have non-refundable deposits, you put out the engagement announcements, or you've set out the wedding invitations. It is never too late to call off a wedding. Never. Now, you hopefully know before that, because that's a very expensive lesson. But never, ever, 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 ever continue because you feel like, well, I've invested so much time. I hear that so much where women say, but we've been at it 8 months. 8 months compared to the rest of your life. If you're 30 and you live to be 100, that's 70 years. So 8 months 70 years, if you were to put it on a graph, you wouldn't even be able to see the marking for the 8 months. Like, that's so small in proportion to the rest of your life. So you want to make sure that you are vetting. And so this is what I focus on mostly in my coaching, is mentally knowing how to pace yourself, mentally knowing what to pay attention to, knowing the things that are just a little annoyances or things that are major red flags that are going to cause you pain for decades to come. This is what's really important. She said, I've been with this guy for a year and he is against putting a label. I would ask him open-ended questions. What does a label mean to you? Because a lot of times what they will say is why they don't need one. But it's important to understand, what does a label mean to you? If he doesn't want to put a label on it, there really isn't a sweet way for me to say this. That is an absolute red flag. It's a burning flag. Because one of the biggest traits for men when they are in love is they want to profess, and they are territorial. I have half my followers are men, okay? I have 13,000 men. If any of those 13,000 are watching, feel free to correct me if I am wrong, because this is based on everything that I have heard from men. Men are territorial, okay? And if they're unhealthy, they can become like overly aggressive and they could be very controlling. But in their nature, they are territorial. They don't like to share. So if you are in love with a woman, you are going to want to, as much as possible, claim her, okay? Don't be offended in 2024. Like, I'm not somebody's property. This is just psychologically how men are wired. And if you go to underneath, it's very sweet. Thank you, Keith. It's actually very sweet. It's very protective. This is mine. There's a reason why we put fences around our property. There's a reason we put doors on our houses. We want to clearly distinguish, this is mine. And so for a man to say, I'm going to do all the relationships things with you, but I don't want to define it, he is giving himself leeway. He's giving himself a loophole, because if you try to press, he's going to say, but I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not your husband. You're not my girlfriend. And so I would ask him, what does having a label mean to you? Because if he doesn't put value on a label, then he also shouldn't care about being a label, having a label, okay? If I don't see anything wrong with a label, I might not think it's that big. I might be like, okay, you could break up with me, it's not a big deal, but I wouldn't be opposed to the label. If I'm opposed to something, then I should be able to articulate why I'm opposed to it. The label doesn't cost him any money. It doesn't cost him any time. There's nothing that a label takes from him. So that would be interesting to see. Now, here's the better question. If you want a label, which the label for us women means security. It means it's concrete. It's just a matter of talking to somebody, my guy, the person I'm seeing, like, it just makes it weird. It's hard to even really refer to that person, right? And also, like, what are the expectations that come with it? My question would be, if you want a label, mama, why are you there? Okay? And this is tough, because for most people, there will be a desire to settle, or what is the word? A willingness to settle, because the subconscious message is something is better than nothing. And I like being around him. I want that masculine energy, or I don't want to be a hoochie. So at least I'm consistently smashing the same person. I know all of the reasons. The reason I know this information, I've been there, done that. I've done all the things. I've made all the mistakes. And luckily I kept a journal. I can just tell you guys, don't do this. Here are the repercussions for this. And I pray that someone will learn from my mistakes. There is a man out there who would be ecstatic to have you be his woman. Monte had to twist my arm. I was not sharing my dating life with you guys. I would speak in generalities. I would say, someone that I used to see, and maybe I was still seeing it, right? Yeah, I was like, I don't need people in my business like that. This man said, you my girl. I want to shout it from the rooftops. This man said, please let me put you, let me talk about you on, my thing. And at first I was like, okay, well, his page is private, no big deal. And then he messed around and realized that his page is private because he's very social media literate, right? Now this man has a whole thing with our photos as his profile picture. He set up a photo shoot for our very first weekend, like, because I was visiting from another state, so our first date wasn't a single date, it was like a whole 2 weeks. But on that visit, he set up a whole photo shoot with a professional photographer, and he wanted to just capture that moment. And this man put an announcement out like we were releasing an album. I said, oh my God, like, whoa, that's a lot, sir. Okay. Men profess, they protect and they provide. So they profess to you, I want to be with you, and they profess to the world, this is my lady, so you better back off or we gonna have some problems. They protect what's theirs. They don't want you dressing a certain way or acting a certain way around men because they don't want other men to hurt you or get to you or get the wrong idea. And they provide because they want you to be okay. It might be wisdom they provide. They provide you with their time. They might provide you with your resources. But men will do those three things. The guy that met the girl through my page, okay, if you guys don't know, I have a singles feature option where the ladies can pay to have their picture placed on there, and then they put their stats, where they live, how old they are, if they want kids, they're willing to travel, whatever. And this woman posted her picture, and this dude said, oh. He DM'd her. He starts communicating. They live 9 hours apart. This man sent her flowers and had researched everything in her area. And he said, I want to see you. Pulled up on her 9 hours in the car, pulled up on her, and it was a holiday weekend. And so he actually got to meet her family. They loved her. They had a second visit. On that second visit, this man popped the question, gave her the most beautiful ring, and they are engaged. This took place starting in April, and we are now in July. Honey, and they're older, okay? So when you know, when you ask the right questions, when you cut through all the BS, men are so simple in that way. I don't mean they're simple as in they're not complex creatures. I mean they're simple in their tells. If you understand, like a dog wags his tail, okay? Now, a dog can wag its tail if it's nervous, so there's, a little gray area. But for the most part, a dog going like this and wagging their tail, they're excited. Like if you learn about dogs, it's easy to where, they want food, they want to play, and, they get sleepy, but they get excited and they want to hump stuff, right? Like if you just learn the basics, you could really navigate easily with dogs. Now with guys, same thing, okay? Most guys are pretty simple when it comes to how they are feeling, okay? I mean, I'll just rattle off some basics. They're going to want to talk every day. So if a guy's like, oh, I'm not really a talker, no way in hell a man who is really smitten with a woman is going to go 24 hours without hearing from her. Even if it's not to sit there and key for hours, it's just by the mere reason that he wants to make sure she's okay. She didn't get in a car accident. She didn't get, abducted by aliens. She didn't meet someone who swept her off her feet. Like they just do the same basic things. The problem is that as women, we create these narratives in our mind because we can't handle the truth. Y'all recognize that line from the movie? Okay. Really can't handle the truth. Men will say to your face, I don't want a relationship. And you will still create the narrative, well, he ain't met me. And once he gets a taste of this, he told you, Linda, that he don't want to be in a relationship. And I always say this, if you listen really closely when a man says that, you'll hear the silent part at the end, okay? When he says, I don't want to be in a relationship, listen really closely this time. I don't want to be in a relationship with you. Did you hear the silent part? You have to really listen closely or turn the captions on. If you just record it and then put the captions on, you'll hear the silent part. I don't want a relationship with you. There is that, and that part is crucial because most of these guys are not committing to a life of celibacy or bachelorhood. They just think that you're a vibe. They just think that you are a vibe, and really it's like, no, that's so crazy. They think you're a vibe and they want something, and so they're going to get what they want. I like this. Like, it's like, I like this apartment. It's great. It serves my need. It's not my forever home. Ew. Ew. I'm not living here forever. Okay. Yeah, Esty, that's my guy. He's right on point. So you're saying, I'll take being your temporary apartment. Yeah, because I have a cool patio. And my community center is dope. And the gym is pretty impressive for an apartment complex. It's really close to downtown and it's got great security. You know what? I'll take a year tenant. I'll take a year tenant. When you have the confidence, when you have the self-love, you say, child, I am a forever home. I ain't nobody's temporary 1-year lease. I ain't nobody's I ain't no 6-year lease. That's for sure. I am worth you signing this doggone 30-year plus mortgage. I am a forever home. I got the freaking pool. I got the jacuzzi. I got the internal sound system. I got the external sound system. I got the automatic boop boop. I got the heated floors. When you understand, honey, what your value is, what your market value is, you're not going to settle for somebody just wasting your time. You're not a vending machine for them to come and take what they need when they need it. But let me close with this. I'm not going to be that person that blows smoke and says every woman just is so valuable. Now, do you have value because you're a child of God? Yes, you have value. You don't deserve to be mistreated. But some women have more market value than others. Okay? And as much as it's not politically correct to say, I'm going to look at my numbers and see if they start dropping. The more in shape you are and the more pleasant you are is going to greatly affect your market value. And guess what? You can control both of those. I knew it. My numbers started going down. You can control both of those. You can control what you put in your mouth. You can control how much you move. And you can control how you respond to things. No man is going to want to be with a woman who is not pleasant to be around. Okay? The Bible says it is better to remain on the housetop than in the house with a bitter woman? No, it's not bitter. Oh, Lord, I'm losing my verses. With a brawling woman? Y'all can look it up. Okay? Basically, fussing and whatever. So you have to learn communication. You have to learn how to express yourself without being, thank you, a nagging woman. Yeah, I can't think of what the King James version. Contentious woman, something like that. Anyway, but we have to learn how to do the things that make men want to come back, make men want to enjoy your company. You should be a safe space, kind of like your bed at the end of the night. You're like, I just can't wait to climb into my bed and just be in my covers, and I have my fan and my TV and my whatever your creature comforts are, right? Emotionally, a woman should be that. It should be a soft space for him to land. And physically, you should be a soft space too. Okay? Guys, are there any men who are watching this? We started out talking about conflict resolution. If you are a man or woman who tends to want to avoid conflict, understand that you are just delaying the inevitable, and you are going to have so much stuff under the rug that you've swept, you're going to be tripping all over it left and right. It is better to have the conversation and understand what is the root cause. Why are you upset? Why are you sad? Why are you disappointed? Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? And is there something that your partner could do differently to fix the situation? Most issues can be talked about. And again, I go back to those two relationship cancers, pride and self-centeredness. If you're too prideful, you're not going to say what needs to be said, even though you absolutely know it already. And self-centeredness is going to say, I'm all about me and what I'm feeling, and I'm not willing to make any adjustments to make my partner comfortable. She said, the conflict isn't what I want to avoid. It's the screaming, stonewalling, and passive aggressiveness. So I don't know if that is your current person who is doing that. But if you are with a person who, when there's conflict, starts to scream, stonewall, and become passive aggressive, that is not a good situation. That is not a good situation. I have been in the most extreme ends of those types of relationships, and it's night and day. Conflict can be very peaceful. It's crazy to say. I wish there was a way to film sometimes, and show conflict resolution, because I can be, oh, okay, so let me add this. She said, no, I'm single. I just don't have the energy. So if you see those types of things, I would just leave that person, because conflict should not be synonymous with those things. That's all I'm saying. But with my guy and I, we have had extreme emotions, very frustrated, very sad, very whatever. But because we are able to regulate ourselves, we are able to push through. And because we have so much love for the other person, even while we are experiencing something, we're still able to go, but what would that person be going through? What does that person need? What does that look like? And how do we meet in the middle? And then what's really key is coming after the fact and kind of like hugging it out, so to speak, emotionally. Reaffirming that I'm in this. I'm not going anywhere. I love you. Man, that sucked, but let's go get some ice cream, or whatever the case may be. She says, are men okay with being told that you want him to be more thoughtful and giving when it comes to flowers and gifts? I'm so giving of thoughtful gifts and my time. I would like the same treatment. So what I would say is I would be very delicate with how I approach a situation where it's like telling a man what to do. And I know you're not saying that, but that's how it could come across. Telling a man, it's better to kind of guide him into it. So for example, I heard somebody say it's easier to push someone toward what you like and encourage them towards the positive behavior than to push them away from negative behavior. So if he does get you something, this is an opportunity to say, oh my gosh, you have no idea. You have tapped into my love language. This sends me over the moon. Like my feet are barely touching the ground. When you affirm, attaboy, good job, you're letting the person know, man or woman, that I like this. Oh, I like this. Yes, 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 yes. They make a mental note if they're into you. If they're into you. So I would wait for there to be an opportunity where he does something, I don't care how small it is. And you say, oh my gosh, this really just melts my heart. It's the thoughtfulness. It's the fact that you thought of me and you considered me, and you didn't have to. You were on that trip, but you said, you know what would Lisa want? And, whatever. And man, and tell them why it makes them feel so good. So for me, my love language is physical touch. And I expressed it in saying, any other relationship you have with a person, you can do all the same things you can do with me. The only thing you can't do is the physical stuff. You can't kiss them the way you kiss me. Yeah, you can kiss on the cheek and kiss your mom, whatever. But the physical stuff, the affection, the grabbing the booty, the hand on the small of the back, all that stuff is inappropriate for someone else. So when I get it from my person, it makes me feel special. It makes me feel like I am unique. And I try to express why, because if it's not a big thing for the other person, it's kind of hard for them to empathize. Like I don't get emotions from gifts. I like gifts because who doesn't like getting stuff? But gifts don't translate to I feel loved. So having a partner who does have a love language of gifts, it's hard for me. And a friend, one of his friends that she's my friend, she's very big on gifts. So I could come in with a single flower. I could come in with a little notebook when she has a party at her house, and that goes a long way. But I don't normally think like that because I'm not like a gift person. Like if it's that intense, I'd rather just walk away until we can both communicate in kindness, or at least sit in peace until we talk about it. Yeah, I would just say though, if a person is consistently having that type of behavior, if you were my client, I would strongly advise not being with that person, unless they were willing to go to counseling or therapy, because ain't nobody got time for that. And it's not really realistic to always have to take a time out and be like, I'm going to wait until you calm down. It's just, as a man, I wouldn't want to hear, I want you to be more thoughtful. It would make me sound, it would make it sound like you don't consider my efforts thoughtful. I love that. See, this is why I like having guys and girls here. Wait, is it a guy? I can't tell by the picture. I'm assuming that's a guy. Yes. And that's why I want to say men are very sensitive, but I don't mean it in a patronizing way or like I'm making them sound effeminate. Men are very sensitive when it comes to the woman that they love or are falling for. And I mean that in a sweet way, like it's a positive thing. Like I said, you don't want an apathetic man. That's a very bad sign. Okay. Men are very sensitive because when they do for a woman, it's a big deal. Whether it's, I normally would work late, but I cut back an hour, or I, would normally do this, but I don't, or I don't ever do this, but I'm doing this. You might not realize the value for them in the exact same way as I just described, but on the opposite end. And so they're going to feel like I have put in 100% and you're not even acknowledging it or receiving it. So yes, that can backfire. So that was great, sir. Thank you for adding that. That's why the verbiage is really, really, really difficult. And you could also ask this question. Hey, if you're really feeling someone, how do you express it? What is the way that you naturally express? What's your go-to? And then you can kind of look and see if he's been doing that with you. You're welcome, Lisa. Let's see. You almost have to list and explain your love languages because people love in the ways they want to be loved. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why I say it's so important. It is so important. Like Dr. Chapman did such great work when it came to love languages. I remember explaining to my dad about my mom, and I was like, once I read that book, I said, Dad, mom's love language is acts of service. Like my dad is, apple did not fall from the tree. I'm just like him. We're verbal, like we will give you words all day and we will give you physical affection. We love to touch, show our love, and profess, right? And so he could be commenting on how beautiful she looks and grabbing her and all this stuff. And my mom is just looking at the dishes. Like I said, Daddy, if you want some, I'm kind of crazy. I'd be like, Daddy, if you want some action, I guarantee you go in there and clean that bathroom, clean that kitchen up. Just look at the things that mom has on the list for today and start knocking those bad boys out. Man, you gonna mess around, come upstairs. She might be wearing something new. I said, I'm telling you, Daddy, I'm telling you. And then for my mama, it's like, tell him he look good. Tell him that his little, workouts paying off. Ooh, pectorals are coming through. Like, that's how you get to my daddy. Or come on, feel on him a little bit. Woo! Like, love languages are a real thing. But somebody has to take that first step. Somebody has to say, okay, even though I'm not getting it in my love language, I'm going to initiate. But I'm telling you, it's so frustrating sometimes because the stuff is so simple to me. And I just don't understand why people don't do it. Like once that became a thing and you learned about love languages, why is it so complicated? Like I'm not fussing at y'all. I'm saying I don't get it because there's always situations where you hear about the person saying, I just want affection, or my wife isn't sleeping with me and I want her to initiate. I want to feel like Like it's a simple solution. Like if we use our words and we talk and we say, this is what I need, why isn't the partner doing it? And that's why I say it's pride and self-centeredness that will destroy, because self-centeredness is I'm so focused on me, I'm not even paying attention to whether or not I give you affection today. I'm not taking time to learn you, to know what works. And I got to say this too. We have to express, because nobody can do it if we can't even express, or you don't even know what you want. I'm just not happy. Well, what do you want? Do you know your love language? Do you know what you need your partner to do to make you happy? She just said it because a lot of people don't know themselves well enough to express their needs to the other partner. Yeah. So that one scenario is the person doesn't know themselves and therefore the person's like in the dark. I don't know what to do. You don't even know yourself. The other scenario is that the person is just not willing to put in the effort. Or they say, I feel weird giving compliments. Like they don't do anything for me. So I don't want to just gas you up. Like, obviously, you know, I'm beautiful. I mean, I know you're beautiful. So why do I have to keep saying it? And they try to think how they feel about it as opposed to just going, just do it. Words of affirmation are like pre-workout for bodybuilders. It just gives you a shot of energy. It just elates you. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. It's been a while since I've done this format, but I want to get back into it. These I put on YouTube because they're longer and it's easier to go back and watch all the way through. I hope you guys learned something about conflict resolution or about communication. Thank you so much to those of you who bought a badge. It means a lot, even though Instagram takes a whole lot. It's crazy. But thank you so much for the badge. I appreciate that. And if anybody needs one-on-one coaching, just slide in my DM and let me know. I do offer dating coaching. I offer couples coaching, and all of the above. I work with guys too. I just don't have as many guys. He said, as a man, I understand the stonewalling is a default mode for a lot of us, but you'll see how fast the wall falls when you have that safe space. Yes. Let me know I can speak without consequence. And that's something I should probably do on the next one, because it's been a while since I've covered that, but how to be a safe space for a guy. Men are, I said, very sensitive, but it's very logical. If I put my hand in this hole in the sink and blades start cutting it, you quickly realize I don't want to put my hand in the hole and push that button. Like they're going to learn. So if they are talking to their woman and she does XYZ, he's going to go, I'm not going there again. He's not going to try to extract what, he's just going to say, talking to her about vulnerable things resulted in me getting hurt. So I might do that for the next one. While not understanding that we play a part in their healing, but that's a conversation for another day. Words are powerful. Okay. All right. So give it a few minutes, but I will upload this to YouTube. It's going to be conflict resolution. Let me know, comment yes if you guys learned something today. I so badly am rooting for you guys. I am rooting for love. I want relationships to thrive. I believe that there are a lot of great guys, a lot of great women, and they just are lacking the tools. With the tools, you can make it. And relationships can be so much fun. And I don't say this to throw it in your face. I say this to encourage you and inspire you. I am having the time of my life with my guy. And we are 14 months in, and it just keeps getting better. The deeper in you go, the more you understand the person, the more you understand how to make them happy, how to avoid upsetting them, and you just become stronger and you protect their heart with a fury. You control yourself because you say, it's not worth damaging this person's spirit. This is my best friend. This is my partner, and I love them more than my pride and my ego and my selfishness or whatever the thing is. So anyway, guys, all right. I'll see you next time. Make sure you watch on YouTube and hit that like button.